Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I do hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to today's bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button. Takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click on that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. Really does help this channel, and it matters. And now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's bonus, shall we? Hello, Jeff. How are you? I can only tell you one true account of a werewolf in the White Mountains. A buddy of mine, he was of Apache and Navajo descent. His dad told us he was traveling from the White Mountains late in the midnight hours, traveling slow on the winding roads that weave throughout the thickly forested White Mountains in his pickup. He heard something bang in the back of his bed in the truck. He switched on the cargo light and was staring at what we would call a werewolf-type creature. He freaked out, nearly going off the road, and in his attempt of correcting the truck, swerving, the creature was thrown out onto the roadside. He is a man of integrity. He is not one to BS anyone. Some Apache friends I have had confirmed the history of this creature dating way back, of a creature half man, half wolf in appearance. There's also Bigfoot-type creature as well, seen by the Apache, and also live along the waterways on the Navajo Nation. The creature in that region are said to be tall, lanky, shiny, and not so thick, shaggy fur. I am a Navajo woman whose family told her of some that live around Farmington, New Mexico, along the remote small creeks that flow year-round. I have not seen any of those creatures. I have experienced hunting on my property in remote regions south of the Petrified Forest. There are Anasazi ruins everywhere there, pottery laying everywhere, arrowheads, all kinds of artifacts. I've watched ghostly orbs floating around the main ruin one night in particular. 100 or so little white glowing round balls of light dancing on the hilltop where the large ruin site sits. I moved to the top of the hill in the last few years of me being on the property, which I have lived on for over half my life. I had respect not to move on the hilltop. For many, many years I had gotten a bigger trailer, and the only place flat enough for it was very long, was on the top hillside, where the main ruin site was. I feel I broke a sacred promise I had made to myself and moved up there, and our home became very haunted. Noises and things that go bump in the night. They're a very strong energy there. They could touch you at any time. Most of the paranormal activity occurred from 1 in the morning till just before dawn. Believe it or not, you actually become used to it and live with it. There was a solar light that ended up under the trailer that stayed there for years. It was always on. That little light never went out, even in the frigid winter. Not ever seeing daylight to charge the battery, but nonetheless, that light never went dark. It was being energized from the ground. My son and I lived there. I became very sick, and I still am very sick. I moved to town about a year ago, and I sold my property that I had owned over 26 years. I paid $14,000 for that land. I just sold it for $5,000. The spirit of the Anasazi not only can torment you while awake, but can hurt you in your dreams with very dark things. I lived in peace for many, many years out there, being blessed with gifts from the spirit world, till I broke my pack and moved on that sacred ground. There's too much to tell you about. I can't type that much, Jeff. There are dark things here, gorgeous, beautiful country as well. One needs to be careful what they touch or where they go. It can cost a life. And it's as real as you and me. A young man and a friend entered a haunted place called Anasazi. I left tobacco offerings. Well, he scoffed at what I was doing. This 23-year-old died of mysterious causes not long after that night. I'm sorry that I have to say tonight. It is not exciting, but it is true. I have a photograph I captured of some ghostly spirit energy out on that property. When I can figure out how to send it to you, I will. I'm not computer savvy. I only have this phone with internet. I will also send you photos of petroglyphs and strange beings on the canyon walls out near my property. I love hearing your true encounters of dogmen and other things. This world has not even scratched the surface of revealing its mysteries. Keep doing what you're doing. It's good stuff. I will stay in touch with you if that's cool. Take care. Your friend and avid listener, WR. Today's second subscriber submission. Hi, Jeff. I've been listening to your show for about a year, and several others before that. I've lived here for 50 years in the same location. My eyes were opened about 6 years ago. I believe there has been activity here for that whole time. The overactivity seems to have picked up the last 5 years, and the neighborhoods are growing a lot, and maybe they're being compressed into smaller area. Several times they have left me geographic wood messages. It seems to happen when they have an issue with something I have done that makes them uneasy or poaching in their property. I think they are getting a bit more at ease around me. Last summer, I was outside and decided to get some sun late in the afternoon. The sun was blistering hot and bright. I lied down on my reclining lawn chair and reclined it all the way back. I lied my shirt over my eyes to keep the sun out. I lied there for about 15 minutes. I was about 40 yards from the side wood line where I believe they frequent. I was lying quietly, about 100% awake. I started hearing small sticks breaking, like someone walking very carefully and slowly. At the edge of the wood line where the trees start as heavy, with small twigs and dry litter, where the trees shed their limbs, also lots of dead leaves there as well. The area between me and the wood line is mowed and has less debris. At first, I thought it may be a squirrel, but I could hear the small twigs sounding like they were being broken underfoot. I listened to that slow snapping of very small twigs for 5 minutes or so. It seemed to be getting closer gradually. The sound of it reminded me of what I had done when I had been out stalking burglars, moving about one step every 20 seconds. Then at some point the sound changed. I still had the shirt over my eyes and I was trying not to move and just see what developed. Then I listened further. The sound changed to a more regularly overt soft walking, and I could hear what I thought was it going through the transition area between the woods and the cleared area. There is an old shallow drainage ditch there which has accumulated a deep layer of crunchy twigs and leaves, maybe 3 feet wide, that runs the length of the boundary. I thought I could hear right after the walking sound changed that it was crossing that deeper layer of leaves and twigs. Then I could hear it move out of the ditch and onto the mowed area where I was. There was still some leaves and twigs in the mowed area. I could hear slow footsteps that seemed to be coming directly toward me, or at least in my direction. I wanted to raise my head up and see what it was there, but my chair was reclined back so far that my feet were higher than my head. I can't bend my neck up enough to see in that direction. The chair has little levers that lock the chair's position. The steps were getting closer now, at least halfway to me. Only 30 to 40 yards to the wood line. I decided the only thing to do was unlock the chair and move the chair back upright. Can't do that quick enough, though. So, About when the sound was like maybe 20 feet away, I move the chair and rise up. When I do that, the footsteps stop, and there is nothing to be seen. The mowed area is wide open, no trees, closer than 50 yards in any direction. There was no sound after that, and no sign of anything. It all must seem like something was trying to come over to where I was sitting, walking as quietly as it could, but then it could not be seen when I rose up and opened my eyes. What the heck do you make of it? I know people have mentioned them evaporating in the scope before pulling the trigger. Another interesting thing that happened a couple of months ago was, out in that same general area in the afternoon, I was walking my dog on a leash. The cat was walking with us as well. We all three play together often. It was a perfect warm day. We got to the middle of the back field in the middle of the mowed area, so I decided to sit down and soak up some more sun. The dog was just investigating the smells, and the cat was just near me, and I was scratching its back. We sat there for 10 or 15 minutes, just relaxing, enjoying the perfect day. It was quite quiet then. Then, out of the blue, I hear a noise coming from the woods. It sounded like noise came maybe 20 feet from the wood line. The interesting part was what the noise was. It was the noise of infant babies sometimes make when they blow air through their lips and make that slobbering motorboat noise. But in addition to that, there was also a humming tune with it that started high and then went low as the air was blowing out and the lips doing the motorboat. This was just like I've seen babies do before. They can talk, but they want to make a noise to interact. And this noise came from 20 to 30 feet over in the 7 to 10 foot tall palmettos. I lied there for about 10 more minutes. Then the three of us got up and I walked by the area and talked to them, saying hello, as Cat Hansen suggested, and friend. But I did not get any response. I imagined that a tiny one may be watching my dog and cat play and maybe wanted to participate, but Mommy must have just been frightened that Junior made a noise and revealed their presence accidentally. I wanted to try to give the idea that I knew they were there and it was okay. I want them not to feel threatened. I expect that there was probably an alpha male somewhere nearby on overwatch. What do you make of the seemingly invisible one? P.S. I saw a huge bright orb at treetop level back in the 70s in the same wooded area. Thanks, Jeff T. Today's third encounter. Jeffrey, I've been listening to your channel and two others for a couple years now. I also read everything online in regards to the Dogman and Sasquatch. I know a lot of people who have encountered a cryptid. They become obsessed with all cryptids. Not me, just the Dogman. Okay, a couple of things. I've never commented on your channel or the other two. I just listen. I want to share my encounter with you and only you. My only thing, no names, and you will see why. I'm giving you permission to use my encounter on your channel, so this is my encounter, which I truly believe I am blessed to be alive after. I'm a police officer and have been for 17 years in the city of Kansas, in a city in Kansas, with the population of about 18,000. We also have a large wildlife refuge about 15 minutes from the police station. Mind you, prior to what I have to share with you, I never believed, thought, or questioned anything that I could not see or touch. So, here's the encounter. It was a hot summer day, August 20th. I just got to the station and was starting my day. At around 5 p.m., we received a call from a frantic woman stating she had been out at the refuge with her dog, a mini collie, and a creature came out of the woods and grabbed her dog and vanished into the woods. I asked her to please stay out of the woods and go to her car, lock her doors, and I will be there in less than 10 minutes. She sobbingly agrees and hangs up. My brain starts thinking, great hot day, and the wackos are out. I was thinking some homeless or drug-addicted person or worse A male predator grabbed this woman's dog, too. Get the woman into the woods and accost her, or even worse. It took me less than 10 minutes to arrive at the parking area and speak to the victim. She told me what had happened. She was visibly shaking, crying. She was, in my eyes, completely terrified. I asked her if she was physically hurt. She was not, and I told her to head home. I asked her if she needed a ride home. She refused and drove home. I watched her drive out of the parking area, and I glanced around the surrounding woodline. At that one moment, I realized it was eerily silent. Nothing, no natural or mechanical noise. Jeffrey, at that point, I was on edge prior to becoming a police officer. I was in the armed forces. What branch doesn't matter. The point is, I've had years of training on protecting myself and others. I felt vulnerable, very vulnerable. I, for some reason, reached down and felt my sidearm almost like a scared child hugs their favorite stuffed animal. I proceed to walk to the trailhead and start walking to where the woman told me this attack happened. Mind you, I'm thinking still this is some weirdo drugged out or just mentally unstable person. It's just starting to get dark, not black, but where shadows are cast and play tricks on your eyes. I walk about 400 feet into the woods. I am still on the trail, and I notice a dog collar with the lead still attached roughly 2 or 3 feet off the trail, and notice a fresh path. Now, it's not really a path or a trail, almost like an animal walked through and crushed the foliage down. I start to look around the rough opening of this path. I've been hunting a few times when I was younger, and my dad and uncle were fairly good hunters and trackers. I noticed the way the brush and scrub are broke and bent. Something large came through here. I radio back, and I give my location and may need backup. Be on standby. I felt at this point something was watching me. The silence was heavy, and I yelled out, "Police department, come out or I'm coming in." Nothing, not a sound. I unholster my HK-45 and announce I'm coming in. I walk in this path. I go about 200 feet and the pathway ends. The woods are thick, like a wall. I start looking around and notice some blood spots and tufts of buff-colored hair. I hear brush snapping and an odd growl behind me, and to my left in the woods. I slowly turn to the direction from where the noise came from. I walk about 10 feet back and start scanning the woods. My eyes catch some movement. What I saw was something that makes nightmares seem tame. I was looking at a dog on all fours. It was huge. Ground to shoulder was about 3.5 feet. Add the head at a good 4 feet. This thing was huge. It was a grayish black. When I say gray, I don't mean old. It was blended. It was a beautiful color. Wow, its head shape and face was like a wolf. Almost like that picture you use where you just see its face. Its eyes were a glowing like greenish yellow. This beast was just staring at me and hackles were up. I heard this low growl. It was almost continuous. I immediately took aim at this monster dog. Jeffrey, then it stood up. I don't know if I didn't hear it out of shock or there was no noise, but that popping sound people described did not happen. 1 minute it was on all fours and the next it was standing up. It happened in a flash. Jesus, I just had a flashback typing this. I went back a couple of days later and took measurements, so when I say it was 9 feet, it was, and maybe more, no less, sir. There, it was huge, and all muscle covered in fur. We stared at each other for a good minute, and this is exactly what this old boy looked like. A well-defined muscular body, and through the fur you could see its tense muscular frame. Its arms were odd, huge biceps but long forearms. They had muscle, but they were long, too long. Its shoulders were about 3 feet wide and narrowed as it went to the waist. The chest, I remember thinking, the pecs were strange but muscular, with a outward chest cavity, not like a human, but like a dog. The claws and hands were terrifying. Its hands were about 9 inches, with 3-inch claws, and at the end of the fingertips, the genitals were visible. It was a male, and proud male. I am not going to get into that detail. But everything was dangling. The legs were so muscular, the upper part resembled well-defined runner's leg, had inverted knee and muscular calves. The feet were the weirdest, like a human foot and dog paw combined. I can't explain it properly, but they too had claws at the end. We continued to stare at each other, and my HK is aimed dead center in its chest. The head was huge. Its eyes looked at me like it was calculating what to do next. In one motion it turned, dropped to all fours, and looked back at me, growled a god-awful noise, kind of a snapping its mouth, and that's when I saw its fangs, a yellowish row of pointed teeth, turned its head and ran out of sight. It just disappeared into the woods. I quickly and carefully made my way out of the woods and back to my patrol car. I sat there for a good while and reported to the station. I could not locate the suspect or missing dog. I drove back to the station in a daze, not believing what I had just seen. I wrote my report and stated the dog must have been stolen by an unidentified suspect and informed the woman that I didn't find her dog or suspect. She was crying and telling me it was not a person, it was a monster, and hung up. I went home and told my wife what had happened. She was not skeptical of my encounter, but we both agreed to tell no one. When I said I went back and took measurements, it was a couple days later, my day off, and armed with my service pistol, I went back with that path. It was a very nice day and atmosphere was normal. I walked to where the Dogman was standing and took out my tape measure and measured the trees, and it was no less than 9 feet. I did notice some remains of a torn-up animal, but it was unrecognizable. Since that day, I've been researching, like I said, everything I can find that's related to the Dogman. I've tried to contact the woman and her family, but apparently she moved about 7 months after this happened. I don't know if she moved because of the incident, but I can only assume. I was lucky. I thank the Lord every day, but I'm very careful when I go on calls near that refuge or woods now. Thank you for your channel and your work. Be safe, everyone. Today's fourth subscriber submission. Jeff, first and foremost, I am happy to hear your surgery is done and you are doing well and back on the air. It's good to hear your voice. I'll try to keep this short. A couple years ago, my wife and I moved to the outskirts of Homerville, a couple of counties, over to a place between Valdosta and Statenville. My front and backyard is divided by a chain-link fence that meets the north and south sides of my house, about 3/4 of the way from the back front. At the time, I parked my truck on the north side of my house with the bed toward the gate and the nose facing the road, which is east. There are several other houses and house trailers around the small rural neighborhood. Most yards are fenced, and I'm pretty much the only fool that goes outside at night. Anyway, to the east there's a creek, and to the west is a small swamp. One night, early morning last February, I was outside smoking a cigarette, just in the front of my truck on the north side of the house. To the south-southeast is a little neighborhood. Out in the creek area, a pack of coyotes start going nuts for about 30 seconds or so. And just as suddenly as they started, they went silent. Everything else did as well. About a minute later, something even stranger started happening. Most of my neighbors' dogs, and they have fences. One by one, the dogs start raising hell and would charge toward the fence only to come to a screeching halt and run back to their homes, full throttle, tails tucked and whimpering. Whatever was making its way through the neighborhood, the dogs, even the biggest ones, wanted nothing to do with it. I couldn't see this thing, but I knew exactly where it was, as it was putting off the strongest don't F with me vibes I had ever felt in my life. It stuck to the shadows, and there is a tree that blocked my vision of the street that ends at the road, almost in line of my property. Whatever this thing was made a left turn to the south, and a few seconds later, when it was out of the furthest reaches of the yard lights, it used the shadows to cover and cross the road and continue west, where it crossed my fence. It circled around my house and came up to the gate behind my truck. I heard the gate, metal on metal, clink, and at the same time came the deepest growl I had ever heard. I felt it through my body. At this point, I'm not sure if I should say what I did, as it may not work for the next person. Something like this happens to you. Anyway, I stomped on the ground as hard as I could, barking like the biggest dog I could imitate, making my way clockwise around the truck to meet this beast head on. Only by the time I made it around the truck, the thing was gone, and the gate and fence were shaking. About a week later, all 15 of my wife's hens were missing, and her 3 roosters had been killed and mutilated and left for dead. Now she takes all the hens and just kills the roosters. Now what takes all the hens and kills the roosters? Anyway, as soon as the chicks were available, my sister-in-law, who lives with us, decided to replace the chickens. The new chicks are about 3/4 grown up. One night a couple of weeks ago, she realizes she left the door open on the coop. It was already dark out. She goes to close the coop and comes back shaking, white as a ghost, and wet her pants. I asked her what was wrong, Jeff, and she said something growled at her. It wasn't long after that, Jeff, I saw what I am pretty sure was a dogman using the shadows to make its way south through my neighborhood. And that is what's been going on here, my friends. Your friend D. Tonight's final subscriber submission. Jeff, I took the liberty of drafting a version of my experience that you can use during your upload. While out finishing up my yard work late one evening, Friday, 28th October 2016, I became distracted by this weird, persistent, forlorn howl coming from the swamp on the other side of the housing area. Initially, it sounded like a big dog, like a bloodhound. Then I realized that dogs don't have the lung capacity and duration that this thing had, because it was coming from a kilometer away. It went on, then paused as if waiting for a response. That is when I realized that this was something other than a dog. It was a cryptid of a different breed. I quickly ran into the house and dragged my wife out to listen. She was immediately taken at how unique and scary it sounded, and said that she had never heard anything like it before. She quickly became freaked out and went running back inside. As for me, I stayed and listened to this for as long as I could. I even tried to record it with my cell phone, but I was getting the echo off the trees, and it never makes for good recording. The only thing to which I could compare it to would be a 7-foot giant mutated zombie bloodhound dog on steroids. It did not sound hominid or primate. It was more canine in nature, like a dogman. After listening to this thing for 50 minutes straight, it finally stopped. This is where everything gets real. A lot of what happens in life that seems unusual is normally attributed to just plain coincidence and is readily forgotten. But I know from experience that a few things that happen in exact succession can usually be tied together to paint a much different picture. I have been aware for a long time that something else is out there in addition to our hybrid hominids, and I have been in presence of these as well. This swamp, from where I heard the creature calling, is between 2 housing developments and is right on the border of Redstone Arsenal. On that side of the garrison, just across the fence and tucked back in the woods, is a forward operating base, complete with a staging facility, forensic labs, helicopter landing pads, a night or two immediately following the howling, now early November 2016. I went into the woods to listen and observe, hoping to record the howler if it was still in there. As luck would have it, there was a lot of activity that night. At about 20-30 hours, I heard 6-second bursts of weapon fire, and I could see light from a muzzle flash against the trees. It sounded just like an unexpected meeting engagement of enemy, where everyone on the team opens fire all at once, and then everything goes dead silent. The threat is put down. My sixth sense was pinging, telling me that this was a deliberate effort, and somehow this howler was involved. I was also thinking about what else could be flushed out my way as a result of this action, and decided to back out quickly. The very next day, I saw 2 cargo helicopters come in together, land at the FOB location on RSA. One was a CH-47 Chinjahook, and the other was a Russian Mi-8 helicopter, and they were clearly not there for support of the Army Aviation Redstone Test Center. In my professional opinion, it was a very suspicious and intense 72-hour turn of events. What I suspect happened was that someone in the other housing area had either a sighting or a terrifying encounter, and reported the howling creature, resulting in a special unit going in and terminating and extracting. I don't think any of this was coincidence, as it sounded way too deliberate. It wasn't until years later, 2020, that I was able to contact with someone that was part of that mission, and he confirmed my suspicions. He said that I was the luckiest man alive to make it out of that swamp that night, because they had killed 3 aggressive dogmen. So something evil and dangerous was intentionally removed from that swamp that night, and I lived to tell about it.
And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed today's bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you for supporting this channel. It is your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.